Hello and welcome to another Language Fuel podcast. Today we're going to do something a little bit different in that we're going to do a product review. So some of you may know that as the Language Fuel team we also sell language learning resources in New Zealand. And one of the common things at the moment here in New Zealand at least is understanding what kinds of dictionaries are the best to use with your students. And the reason why this is an issue at the moment is because the New Zealand Certificate in English Language, which is like a national qualification that they've just revamped, and they're busy making it standard across the whole country, which is a really good thing. In the exam specifications, it says that learners are allowed to use dictionaries, but they have to be paper-based. And the reasoning behind that is that if someone's using a device, a mobile phone or perhaps even a tablet, or they say it's an electronic dictionary, the examiner will have no way of knowing if it's an internet-capable device. And when they're typing in to look up a word or something, that they might not be asking for help. So just as a blanket rule, they've said no electronic devices. It has to be paper-based. So then the question is, okay, what kind of paper-based dictionaries shall we provide them? And there are a stack of different types of dictionaries out there. So I thought that today I'd just spend our quick 10-minute podcast explaining the different types of products that are out there. If you're in New Zealand and you'd like to have an inspection copy to see if it's something that you want to go ahead and buy class sets of, you're very welcome to get in touch. So I'm going to start with, basically there's three categories of dictionary. By the way, as well, I'm not talking today about how to teach dictionary reading skills. I've done that before. In fact, it was season 1, episode 21. So if you're interested in, because you do need to train students on how to use a paper dictionary, especially if they are used to an electronic device where they type in a word and up pops something. So there are certainly skills to be taught, and if you're interested in that, I mentioned that back in season 1, episode 21. Anyway, this time I'm just going through what kinds of dictionaries are out there. So, 3 types of dictionaries. First of all, there's Learner's Dictionary, then there's English, I would call that regular dictionaries, and then there's bilingual dictionaries. In the New Zealand curriculum guidelines, learners can use any of those as long as it's paper-based. So I'm going to go through that in reverse order. I'm going to have a look quickly, first of all, at bilingual dictionaries. So this would be, for example, if I have Chinese as my first language, I'm going to have something like, I shouldn't have chose that one because I haven't got one in front of me. Let's say I speak German as my first language. I'm going to have something like this, which, now this is got English printed on the outside, so this is more for English people learning German. However, it's got both anyway. So in the front half, we've got the German words that they're looking up, and then in the second half they've got the English words that they're looking up. So you can look up either way around. These are extremely helpful if, particularly say for exams where production is required. I'm thinking writing. So a student's got a word in their head and they're going, oh, I know the word in my first language. Say if it was German, I really know the word I'm trying to say. How do I say that in English? So I can look up that word in my own language and go, oh, okay, that's the English equivalent. Now, hopefully there's more than just a one-word translation. I've said that many, many times. One-word translations are not useful. And this is a good example where there's a whole lot, if I just try to bring that up to you, there's a whole lot of other information, not just a one-word translation. So, this is a good kind of dictionary. This one is a Collins dictionary. We can certainly provide all of those in all the different languages. Oxford also does the range. This one here is a Spanish dictionary, same sort of thing. They've got the Spanish words, you look up by the Spanish at the beginning and then you look up by English at the end. Also got plenty of information, pronunciation information, what word class it is, and how to change it to become, from a noun to an adjective, if there's a suffix to put on the end or whatever. So certainly good information there. We've got a Collins Japanese one here as an example. Here's one that's a wee bit different. Not so useful for for examination settings. This one is specifically a pronouncing dictionary. So Super useful for when I'm wanting to know how to pronounce a language like Chinese, which of course in their writing system, they don't have an alphabetic system, it's a symbols. So there's no clues from the writing system itself in terms of how to say the word. So that's what this is for. Definitely very useful for learning, not so much useful for in an exam situation, you're looking for a particular word. So those are the kinds of dictionaries you'd be talking about if you wanted a bilingual dictionary. Most students would have their own bilingual dictionary that they use to study with, so they would be bringing these into the exam like that. The second category of dictionary would be what I call regular or English dictionaries. Now, I actually, funnily enough, don't have any right here on my table, any in stock. They're not actually unpopular, it's just I've sold out for whatever reason, so we don't have any, but it's you can buy these anywhere. You can buy them at the local stationery shop, any kind of good quality dictionary. I mean, I always say look for the publisher. If it's a good brand that's publishing it, it'll have all the right kind of information. So certainly a normal English dictionary would be very, very helpful. And we can provide them, I just don't happen to have any right now to show you. The other category, Learner's Dictionary, I've got tons to show you, and you can use these in the New Zealand education guidelines, say that that's totally fine as well. So some dictionaries are actually based on different levels of learning. So here's an example of a Collins one, Collins Co-Build, that says very specifically for elementary and pre-intermediate learners of English. Now, if you're aware about vocabulary frequency lists, this is quite clearly defined. How many thousand words is that? I don't know off the top of my head. I could look it up for you, but you know, it probably even says it here. It has the guideline here, the CEFR, the Common European Framework, the A1 to B1. Now, in New Zealand, our curriculum, the New Zealand curriculum in English language, does relate to the CEFR very closely. That's one of the changes they've just made in this last round of changes. So you'd be able to very quickly check against the curriculum documents that this is a suitable level. The only thing I'd say about whenever they're specifically for a level like this one, so elementary and pre-intermediate, let's have another quick, I've got an advanced one somewhere. Much more heavy because there's more words in there. This one, Advanced Learners Dictionary, this is a Cambridge one. I've also got the Oxford one here as well. And typically they would also work off of a corpus or a list, you know, a vocabulary list that is related to a certain level, certain proficiency level. This Cambridge one says specifically with clear definitions and over 140,000, which is just massive. Actually, no, that might not be entries. It says words, phrases, meanings, and examples. So I guess that including examples is a different thing in that count. Nevertheless, my point that I was about to make, when you go for a dictionary that's based on a certain level, whether it's elementary and pre-intermediate, which this Oxford version also has exactly the same thing, elementary, pre-intermediate, and it tells you on the CEFR little table there where it targets at. If I am a pre-intermediate learner, sometimes there will be words in the text or in the exam that are above my level. Now, if the exam's written well, the exam itself will have a glossary for any words that are outside your standard range. So in that situation, you'd be fine. If the exam is not written terribly well, because they assume learners can use a dictionary like this won't have the more advanced words. So that's the only limitation I would say if you're planning to use a dictionary like this in an exam. However, if you were an elementary student and you had a dictionary for elementary and pre-intermediate, you'd probably be fine. You'd very unlikely to have words in your exam that are beyond the level above pre-intermediate. Certainly they would put a glossary. That would be quite obvious because elementary is such a low level. So that's the only caveat I'd say, but I think they're fantastic. They're very easy to use. They've got a couple of illustrations in there. It's easy to navigate when you're going by alphabetical order of entry. So that's one of the skills that obviously you have to have when you're using a paper-based dictionary, is how do you use alphabetical order. And this just makes it a little bit easier knowing that people are just learning these skills. So I really like that. Plenty of images. You're not going to get any words in here that aren't relevant to that level. So if you are studying at that level, fantastic to have a book just like this. And it might even make it more popular to read the dictionary as a study thing. Not that that's necessarily the best way to learn vocab, but you can certainly learn a lot from a dictionary like this, which is designed for learners of English. While I'm on that, there's a couple, so the advanced, whether it's, these are big, fat, heavy ones. We've got the Cambridge one, and we've got the Oxford one here. The only difference between them is that some of them have a few extras. So this one's got DVD and online. So it is designed to be used as a sort of a learning thing. So it's in the back here, it's got a DVD that you pop in your computer. Plenty of information there, example sentences and all that sort of thing. Same with the Cambridge, it's also got a CD-ROM at the back. So some learners just absolutely love having something like this on their shelf that they can pull down at any stage. There's often bits in the middle that you can see, the bits that have a slightly different colour, sort of reference information. Just going to find. So this one is tips for improving your writing, research tips, because a lot of people at that advanced level are, needing to do academic kind of writing, that sort of thing. Specific resource pages, these are sort of glossy and shiny in colour with images and all of that. A couple of maps. I've got Australia here and New Zealand. Sometimes New Zealand gets left off the map, but there we are, we're here. And of course, plenty of other countries as well. It's not just us, obviously. All the English-speaking big nations, I suppose. So these got a whole bunch of extras, not just what you'd sort of find in a standard kind of dictionary. So this is the more higher end of the spectrum. At that higher end is also Oxford academic English. So this is more specific academic words. Again, super useful, but because it is so specific to the academic word list and so on, I don't know if it's enough for an exam setting where you'd kind of want just a full range. But certainly very helpful if you are teaching academic writing in particular. This is great for all the things you'll encounter. Now, so these are the higher ends. We talked about the elementary, pre-intermediate level as well. There is, at the lower end, also for like beginners, very specific picture dictionaries, which are easier to manage if you really have very, very little language to start with. This one is the monolingual one. This is the Oxford. There are some other publishers that do one like this. So for beginners, it's brilliant. Everything is in pictures and it's themed. So this is the food preparation and safety. And some other ideas that we've got here. Personal hygiene. So you can just look at the pictures and figure out what's going on. And it has phrases at a time. So put on sunscreen. That's how we say it. You don't just want to know sunscreen. You want to know what the verb is. And this is a phrasal verb. So put on. Use deodorant. Take a bath. Take a shower. That sort of thing. So really, really good to get for those really lower levels, the beginner levels. All sorts of beautiful pages and images there. And then, of course, these come in bilingual versions as well. The only one I had on my shelf at the moment was an Arabic one. So the cover looks very similar, but it just shows you here that it's got the other language as well. And this is very helpful for learners who do have literacy in their first language, and they can compare with the English version. So it's got all the same themes and so on. But as you can see, let's just hide this up here. It's got in blue how you would write it in the first language, but it's still organized according to themes. So either one of those, whether it's got this does come in, you can get the Korean version and the Chinese version and all sorts. Super handy if you do have a class full of people from the same language background. Otherwise, certainly having a set of these in your class for beginners is absolutely wonderful. And finally, before we go, there's another category of dictionaries which is for New Zealand school pupils. So that's assuming that English is the first language. And I won't spend too much time on this, but there's a whole range from really, really junior, like this one, really sweet Oxford Very First Dictionary. And again, that is picture-based, really big pictures, really cute. So that's Very First Dictionary. Then we go to sort of phonics and spelling. If you're teaching native speakers how to spell, useful things in there. Then we've got the Oxford First Dictionary, which is got slightly fewer pictures, but still plenty of colour on the page and so on. And then we've got the Oxford Junior Dictionary. So as you're working your way up through primary school, this is kind of how you'd move on, learning that sort of thing. So fewer pictures, only a few here and there, alphabetical order and that sort of thing. Then you get up to primary school dictionary. So this is the last few years of primary school. Pretty much looks like a regular kind of dictionary. And then we've got just the standard New Zealand school dictionary, which has got slightly smaller text again. So this could be used at intermediate, high school, whatever. So that is it. A bit of a review of lots of different types of dictionaries. Very happy to have a chat with you if you're in New Zealand and you want to explore, what you should have on hand for your learners. You can contact us through the resource room, Language Field Resource Room, resourceroom.co.nz. Otherwise, that's pretty much it. Have a fantastic day.
Thank you for listening to the Language Fuel podcast. You can see more at www.languagefuel.com/podcast, or you can see us on YouTube at youtube.com/languagefuel.